couldn't. I love the night. That's the only time I feel really alive.
That's what David wanted.
Blood, I was to find, was a necessity as well.
A vampire in love with a slayer. It's rather poetic. I am the monster the breathing men would kill. I am Dracula.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. As always, I'm your host, Lena, and I just got back from celebrating Pride. Happy Pride to everybody. So that's why you may see some glitter as I move around. That's because I was celebrating Pride. And then I was like, oh, I have to go record. So we're here. And it is June, so we are doing viewers' requests. Now, I do not remember who requested this one. If I can track it down before this video comes out, I will put it in the video description. I will note it in the YouTube video. I am so sorry to whoever asked me to do it. I will track down your name at some point. But everybody else for the rest of this month, I did remember to write names down. If you want to go to my socials, it's the Beautiful Dead podcast, or you can click on the link in the video description and join my Discord. That's where I get a lot of my requests. I would say Instagram, Threads, YouTube here. I'll post it on my channel. People will ask me to do things, but also in the Discord, I mean, we're talking every day, all day. So people will say, oh, you got to watch this, you got to do this. And I'm always jotting it down. All right, let's just go ahead and jump in. Okay. Without further ado, we are doing the Night Watchmen. And I was not familiar with it. Somebody posted it and I looked at the description and I saw that it was free on Tubi, so I was like, oh, I'll do that. Well, after I watched it, I got the DVD because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So a bit of a spoiler alert right out of the gate. You don't have to wait for my thoughts if you don't want to know that I really, really enjoyed this one. So I'm glad that I took it on and watched it. And with the spoiler alerts, everybody, you know, I'm going to talk about the movie from the beginning to the end. Now, a lot of the jokes are not necessarily going to be mentioned because they're not vampire related all the time. So you can still watch this movie after you've heard me talk about it and still not know everything because I'm only talking about the vampire stuff. So, all right. Juliet is also at my feed and I did give her a treat because if I don't, she won't let me record. She talks at me the whole time and it ruins everything. So I did just give her a little treat. So you're probably going to hear her crunching at my feet. All right, the Night Watchman. We have a vampiric crossover. So James Remar plays Randall in this, and he was in From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series. He was in Blade Trinity, and he was in Vampire Diaries. So lots of vampire stuff on James's IMDb list. So that's pretty exciting. All right, let's talk about it. Let's just jump right in. All right. I will share as much as I can on the YouTube channel, but again, we just never know anymore. This is like, it's been so stressful with YouTube recently, seeing what's going to get through and what's not going to get through. So I apologize if I only share screenshots and I don't get to share video. That's why. All right. So we open on a news broadcast and they're talking about this touring clown show, essentially. It's like 12 or 15 clowns and they do this big touring show and they're very famous and the leader of the bunch is Blimpo. And they were touring, and then they were in Romania when the performers fell ill with a mysterious illness. So their bodies, everybody died. So their bodies were shipped back to the U.S. for testing and burial. And so we get this shot of like 15 coffins stacked up one on top of each other in like four tiers. So right out of the gate, I was like, oh, we've got Romania. So we already know where this is headed. obviously too, if it's on this channel, we know where it's headed. So cut to Baltimore, Maryland, and we get our opening credits along with shots of the city, and there's a rock song playing, and we get these flashes of a rock band, and they're called Dracul, Kool. And then it transitions from this music video to 2 security guards that are watching it on YouTube. They finish the video, shut the laptop, and they're interviewing a young man who wants a job in security. Now, this young man was actually in the band that we were just watching play in the beginning of the movie. And he's like, I was under the impression I already had the job, and this was my first night. I was supposed to be training. But these 2 security officers, their names are Ken and Jiggets. And they're like, well, hold on. You have to get past us first. So they're asking questions. And in the midst of all of this, they introduce the new guy to a guard named Luca. And they tell him that Luca is supposedly, he had been in prison for killing a man. And they were like, there's like a rumor that the mafia is looking for him, and he's like living in witness protection, and he killed all these people. And they're like, you shouldn't look him straight in, you shouldn't look him in the eyes because he'll kill you. So then they say to this new kid, the rookie, that before he can get his uniform, he has to survive this hazing ritual that they call human bowling. So then we cut to this new kid, and he's in this like big steel, it almost looks like a big laundry cart, if you can imagine that. And they have this kid in it, and they push him into like a big stack of things that he has to, they use him for human bowling, obviously, as the name implies. So now we cut to it. He finally has his uniform. You can tell it's a little too big on him, and it belonged to a previous officer whose name is Rajiv. And so he's got the name tag that says Rajiv, and he's starting to learn his new role, his first night as a security officer. So what you need to know is they are the security officers for a large building in Baltimore that houses whatever the Baltimore paper is. I'm sorry if you're from Baltimore, but like for us, it's the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So whatever the Baltimore, whatever it is, it's the newspaper. So they are sitting, Ken and Jiggets are sitting in front of multiple monitors, and they're starting to explain, what their job is. And they say like, our job is to watch all of this overnight. And then we see that there's a bunch of employees working late. And one of them is a hot girl named Karen. And Ken is like, don't even pay attention to her because we're not allowed to fraternize with employees. And we also learn that Ken has a really big crush on Karen. And he's trying to say that the reason he's never asked her out is because there's rules against fraternization, but I don't think that's the truth. I think he's just shy. So we learn that there are 4 floors. 1 and 2 are the warehouse, and then 3 and 4 are offices. There are renovations happening on one of the floors, and as I said, like a bunch of employees are working late on some kind of big project. And then as they're looking at the monitors, they see a coffin being loaded into the warehouse. So Ken and Jiggets are like, go get us donuts. We're gonna go check out what the heck is going on. So they head to the warehouse and they look at the paperwork, and they say it's supposed to be delivered to 31 Stoker.
3100 Stoker Street. You know we're 3010. All right? 3100's the medical lab down by the docks.
You gotta be kidding me, man.
So there's a nice vampire reference. Bram Stoker, everybody. It's supposed to be delivered to 3100 Stoker, which is the medical lab, but their office is 3110. It's been delivered to the wrong address. So the 2 warehouse guys are like, come on, can we just keep it here tonight? Because if you don't let us keep it here, we now have to load it up. We have to take it down there. And, they're going to close soon. It's going to be this huge hassle. So they actually bribe the security guards with weed to keep the coffin there overnight. So then we see like some office shenanigans on the monitors, and one of them is the guy Randall, who's the boss.
Excuse me.
Played by James Remar, as we said. And we see that he is like he's so gross. He like gets up behind this female employee, and like it's very clear that he's a creep. So then it actually cuts to him showing up in the security office and being introduced to the new guard, Rajiv. We will get his name at one point, don't worry. You know what? I'm just going to start calling him his real name now. He doesn't say it until the very last scene. They finally ask him his name. His name is Justin. So we're just going to call him Justin. But the gag is throughout the movie, they keep calling him Rajiv. But Randall comes in. We find out he's the boss and that he's kind of a freak and that he introduces himself to the new kid, and then he shuffles away because he points at the security monitor and he's like, why is there a coffin in the warehouse? And the guys are like, it's a mix-up. It'll be gone in the morning. Please don't worry about it. So the security guards start watching porn on the monitors. And then Karen and another female employee come in and catch them. And they're explaining to the guards, like, hey, guys, we're going to be here really late. Don't come in guns a-blazing. Like, we just need to work, and we just want to give you the heads up. And then Karen introduces herself to the rookie. Again, his name is Justin, but everyone keeps calling him Rajiv. And the other female employee is Penny, and she's been there for 3 years. But there's a great joke about how nobody recognizes her, and she's like apparently so forgettable. It's a good joke. It's a funny scene. Meanwhile, Randall goes to check out the coffin in the warehouse, and he's on the hunt for valuables. So he's like, yeah, people often get buried with valuable stuff. So the coffin is sealed shut, so he uses a flathead screwdriver to pry it open, and inside is Blimpo, the clown. He's one of the circus victims that we mentioned earlier, but apparently he's like, it's a big, big deal that Blimpo has died. And so Randall's like, well, if I take a piece of this clown, I can sell it on an auction site for a ton of money. So he grabs a hacksaw and he's going to saw the red nose off of this clown to sell on eBay. But first he decides to take a selfie with Blimpo to prove that it's authentic. So he takes a selfie with Blimpo and then he looks at the phone and Blimpo is not caught on camera. So that's our big hint to what's going on. While Randall's trying to figure out why his phone is not taking good pictures, Blimpo sits up.
Cheap piece of crap.
And he has a mouth full of fangs. So that's our first shot of the vampire. Blimpo has all sharp teeth like a shark's jaw. So think of like the vampires from Supernatural or the 30 Days a Night vampires. That is the kind of fangs that he has. Meanwhile, Penny is working on a story about Blimpo's death. Karen is asking all the other employees if they want coffee, and they say no thanks, so Karen leaves to go get coffee. Outside, a man is walking his dog, but the dog is suddenly like barking and scared, and then a clown shows up behind him and kills the man. And we don't see it, but the implication is that his neck is bit and all his blood is drank. We don't know yet if that's Blimpo or one of the other clowns. I still don't know. I don't think it is Blimpo because I think Blimpo's inside the building. And this is one of the other clowns coming to the building because there is a big size discrepancy. So I think this is a second vampire clown. In the security office, they're playing cards, and an employee named Barney comes in to complain about there being no toilet paper on the third floor. And he also explains that somebody has been stealing his food from his desk. And then he says, oh, and watch out, I'm getting a pizza delivered. And one of the security guards goes, oh, well, we haven't seen it. And then he kicks an empty pizza box underneath his desk.
Good. What's that?
8 p.m. Main lights are on a timer.
We also see at 8 p.m. the main lights are on a timer. So all the main lights go off. So anything in a hallway, anything not being used goes off. So all the lights left are just like what people have on in their individual offices. We learned that Ken is ex-Marine and that the reason Justin took this job is because it's the only place that would hire him, being an ex-drummer, an ex-rock star. I guess people don't trust him, and so this was like the only job that would hire him, so that's how he ended up there. And then they see on the monitor that the coffin in the warehouse is knocked over and empty, so they head out to check it out. In a conference room, Karen comes in to talk to her coworkers, and they have their heads down on the table, so she thinks people have fallen asleep, so she walks away. And then the camera pans down and we see a man dead on the ground, like in a pool of blood. Karen goes out and she's sitting on a countertop, and she's like, you know, the thing with the pencil where you stab in between each one of your fingers and see how fast you can get. She's kind of playing that game. And unbeknownst to her, one of her coworkers rises and starts to walk away and walks right behind her. She hears something. She arms herself with a pencil, but she doesn't see anything. The office appears to be empty. In the warehouse, the guards see that the coffin is in fact empty. They think Randall took the body because he's such a frickin' weirdo, and they assume that he took the body for necrophilia. When Justin slips, and when he sits up, he sees he slipped in a pool of blood.
Yeah, there's just something sticky. There's just something sticky!
What the hell?
Meanwhile, Karen is wandering the office, and we see Blimpo step out at the end of the hall behind her. Penny is in her office. She hears an evil laugh, and she's like, Randall, if you're behind me and your pants are down, I'm gonna be really pissed. And she puts on her glasses and turns, and it's Randall, and he flashes fangs. So we see he has two sharp canines on each side. She screams. Then another female employee is attacked by these rising vampires, and her shirt is ripped off, and we see her boobs for no reason at all. But we're seeing now that anyone who's been killed is turning very fast. They're all turning and rising and going after other employees. In the security office, Justin wants to call the cops, but 911 is a 6-hour wait. Baltimore, what are you doing? They see on the monitor that Karen is like waving her hands and screaming for help. And then she is pulled back by something that's unseen on the cameras. So we know these vampires cannot be captured on film or security camera or digital camera, because now we've seen it with the phone and we've seen it on the security cameras. They run to save her, and there's a great moment where they have to stop and take a break on the stairs. Ken, Jiggets, and Justin are on the floor looking for Karen. Meanwhile, Luca has used the elevator. They're using their flashlights because the main lights have shut off, and we see that the cubicle area has obvious signs of struggle. There's like blood everywhere, and you can see where people have been drugged. They find Penny with her throat ripped out. Then a female comes out and is quickly grabbed by something too fast to be seen. So the guards hide behind a partition, and then suddenly Penny rises up, and she has fangs now too. Luca saves them by knocking her out, but then she just rises again.
Man.
So they lock her in a conference room with several other of the newly risen vampires. Karen stabs Ken in the shoulder with her pencil, thinking that the guard is also a vampire. Only to realize that basically it's like the 4 guards and Karen who are not homicidal. All of the rest of them appear to have been turned. They run for the warehouse, and then they run into the 2 warehouse guys from earlier, and they are also now vampires. They manage to get the warehouse guys locked into an office, and Luca's like, listen, these things are at every exit. So they note that Randall's car is in the warehouse because he drove it in earlier and was making the janitor. Like, there's a one-eyed janitor. He's a patch on, an eye patch. And he makes this janitor like polish his crappy old car. So they see Randall's car and they're like, okay, we're going to get into the car. We're going to drive through the vampires to escape. But the problem is there's no keys and nobody knows how to hotwire a car. So it's a great joke too, because everyone assumes because Jiggets is black that he knows how to hotwire a car. So they get out of the car, and Karen has decided, number 1, that she runs marathons, and 2, that the security guards don't really fill her with confidence. So she is going to make a run for it. She asks them to open the bay door just wide enough for her to slip under, and she runs. And we see her kind of disappear into a fog, and then suddenly reappear as she's running back towards the building, being chased by like a dozen vampires.
Coming back!
So the vampire clowns have risen probably in the medical lab where Blimpo was supposed to be delivered, and they are now slowly turning the entire city into vampires. So not only are they trapped in the building, but they can't leave the building because there's vampires out in the night as well. She is followed in by one of the vampires who is very quickly staked by the eye patch janitor I told you about. His name is Willie. He takes control and he's like, we're fighting vampires. These are vampires. The group doesn't agree because Jiggit says, vampires are sparkly, shiny, and handsome and shit. And Ken goes, maybe they're zompires. And the janitor goes, that's stupid. So he explains, and this is an interesting rule for our vampires in this world.
Yes, it was foretold. They would flock in large numbers and feed upon the blood of the living. Many shall die and join their numbers, but not us. You know why? Because Willie knows their weakness.
He says the new ones are dumb, but the more they eat, the stronger they get. So the longer they're vampires, the more blood they drink, the more strength they have, the more intelligence they have. So your best bet as a human is to kill these new ones before they have a chance to get any stronger. Willie says it was foretold that the vampires would flock in large groups and grow in numbers and feed on blood, and they're everywhere. And Willie's like, I know what to do. What we need to do is, and then he gets pulled back and killed.
I know the one thing that will destroy them. Roll around us. Quickly, listen to me. Come closer. The thing we have to do is...
The one that chased him chases the others, and we see that a taser will take them down, but only very, very briefly, and then they rise back up. So they decide to lock themselves in the security office, but we see that none of the vampires were caught on camera. So they don't know where these vampires are right now. So they start arming themselves. Justin's like, they make a comment about, because they were like, Justin says, you had guns in here this whole time? And Ken is like, yes, but we don't carry them because the handbook says, and Justin picks up the handbook and starts ripping it up, and he's like, fuck the handbook. We don't need the handbook. This is stupid. And he rips it up into tiny little pieces. We're at war, he says. And Ken is like, that was in the handbook. The handbook is a PDF. What you just tore up was my sci-fi erotica novel that I've been working on for 20 years. Oh, God. So then Jiggits lights up a joint, which is like incredible because if you're going to chill, that's the time to try and chill. Someone on the radio is screaming for the National Guard, and they're like, clowns are attacking. This is Baltimore. Clowns are attacking. Outside the building, we see that vampires are everywhere. And there's a group of vampire clowns that see this Baltimore newspaper building and they start to head straight for it. So I'm assuming Blimpo is the master.
It's okay. We got weapons, the door is locked. We'll just wait them out in here. We're safe in here.
From the drop ceiling, Vampire Willie attacks the group, so they knock him out and then tape him to a chair. Ken is pulling out his fangs, like with pliers. They're trying to figure out what can we use against the vampires. So they're trying to they're like, okay, what do we know from all of our years of movies? Sunlight, holy water, garlic, crosses. And then they ask Jiggits, like, are you wearing a cross? And he pulls out from underneath his outfit a Star of David, not a cross. And we see that the vampire is not affected by the Star of David. So they try shooting it only to find out that Ken is a horrible shot for somebody who is supposedly in Marine. Lucas shoots Willie in the forehead. It doesn't kill him. It just covers them all in blood. So Jiggits plugs the hole in his forehead with his thumb, and then he gets his thumb stuck. They break a broom handle and stake him, but it's plastic, not wood, so it doesn't work. Then Karen stakes him with a wooden plunger handle. And then Jiggets pulls his thumb out. So what we know for sure now is that you have to stake them in the heart with wood. The other thing we learn is that these vampires, whenever they die, pass gas, and apparently the smell is horrific.
Oh man, that's foul. My eyes are watering. Oh, Jesus.
That did not happen on True Blood. I watched every season.
And Karen says, that didn't happen on True Blood. I watched every episode. I laughed so hard because I was like, girl, same. They decide they need to find Randall to get his keys out of his pocket so they can use his car to flee, but the third floor is crawling with vampires. So they prepare to fight. They load up on guns and stakes, and then they take the rubber wall protector, you know, the strip that's at the bottom of the walls to protect it from like your shoes kicking into it and doors and stuff. They take that and cut it and wrap it around their throats as a throat protector. That was actually really smart. Then we get the whole preparing to fight montage, which you guys know I absolutely freaking love this trope. They head out. The fight attack comes from Vampire Penny, who is now strong enough to lift Ken, but Karen takes off her glasses and she can't see to attack them. So we know that in this world, vampirism doesn't give you like better sight, better hearing, you're not faster, so it doesn't improve your reflexes or your senses like most vampires. So now Penny is stumbling around because she can't see. As they move through the building, they see Blimpo squeaking his horn out into the night. And then we see across Baltimore that all the vampires and vampire clowns everywhere, and they all start heading towards the building like his circus horn is calling them. Our heroes see a newspaper clipping about Blimpo's death and finally put it all together that the clown troupe was killed in Romania, most likely by vampires, and then shipped back here, and this is how the vampire outbreak is happening. They hear Barney screaming for help, so they head towards him. Ken tries to shoot the vampire that is attacking Barney, but shoots Barney in the shoulder instead.
Man, you shot me! I'm so... My bad.
The vamp jumps on Justin, gets him to the floor, and is on top of him. So Karen stakes the vampire and she pours black blood all over Justin. They tell Barney that he has to dance to prove that he's human and not a vampire, and he does like the typical white girl sexy dance, which is so funny.
The fuck?
Oh.
So they tell him to Dougie, and he does, and they make fun of him. It's so funny.
Sexy dance, do like the Dougie or the electric slide.
Oh, no.
I have seen some horrible things today, my friends, but this by far is the worst.
So finally, they let him join the group, and they're like, we need to find Randall. Keep your eye out for Randall. As they're moving through the next room, everybody's reflection can be seen on the glass door as they walk by, except for Barney's. And Justin notices this. So Barney turns, he tries to bite Ken, but the neck guard works. Barney is staked by Luca, and we now know for sure that the whole rancid fart thing is like a consistent when these vampires die, because it happens with every single vampire.
The neck guard works.
Good.
They enter the next room only to be surrounded by vampires. We learn that Ken was a Marine, but he finally admits that he was actually not Special Forces, that he was only in for a few days, and then he accidentally shot his bunkmate in the testicle, so he got discharged from service. So he's running around telling everybody that he's like, he's Special Forces and blah, 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 and all that was a lie. One of the things that I forgot to tell you was earlier as they were moving through the building, remember how Barney complained that someone kept stealing his food? Well, it's Jiggets.
And who knows how many...
Jackpot!
The dead are walking the earth. We don't have time for snacks.
There's always time for Chef Coppola.
Hey, Coppola, that's my cousin, eh? Very good sandwich.
So Jiggets found Barney's office as they were moving through the office building and stole Randall's dinner, which was a meatball sub from this like local restaurant that I guess is very famous and very good. So they are being attacked by vampires. Luca grabs the half-eaten meatball sub off of Jiggets and throws it into the vampires because this special, like, famous chef is known for putting a lot of garlic in his food. So we know the garlic thing works. The vampires do pull back from the sub on the floor, so they pick it up and they put it in front of them, and so the vampires start to, move backwards, and that way they can move through the room without being attacked. They see Randall, they stake him, they put him in a rolling chair and move him into a room where they can shut the door and search for the keys. Ken wants to reuse the stake, so he pulls it out of Randall, and Randall rises again.
No, special ed sleeping dogs lie!
Yeah, that is not a good idea. We're gonna need these.
He grabs a gun and starts shooting at the heroes, and they were like, wait a second, the vampires can use guns? That's not fair. So Randall gets kicked in the balls, and then they take the half-eaten meatball sub and shove it into his mouth, and it burns him, and then they break his neck. So that apparently is another way to kill a vampire in this universe. Or it doesn't actually kill him. We just never see him again for the rest of the movie. So it's possible it didn't kill him, but for that moment at least, it gave them the time they needed to get out. So they get his keys, they head for the car. Ken opens the bay door and they all get into the car as the vampires throw themselves onto the car. Jiggets gets pulled out through the window and out into the vampires, and he has the keys. So everyone fights off vampires, shuts the bay door with Jiggets on the other side. Ken is very, very, very upset about this. Karen gets trapped in this like storage cage that's in the middle of the warehouse, and it's surrounded by vampires. Luca tells Ken, take the boy, I'll lead them off. And Luca runs, and like some of the vampires...
Come on! Come on! I say
chase him. Ken and Justin get back to the security office. Karen is now in the cage, surrounded by vampires. Ken wants to arm up and go back out to save Karen. Justin thinks they should just wait for sunlight. So Justin says, I have nothing to go back for. And he asks Ken, what do you have to live for? And Ken says, the only thing I had was Jiggets. Then he punches a locker and possibly breaks his hand, which was like very bad timing when you're fighting for your life. And he's like, Jiggets and I were like brothers, but Justin thought they were lovers, and the joke keeps happening. They hear someone struggling outside the office, so they go to check. Ken tries to give Justin this like big inspiring speech, but Justin shuts the door and locks himself in the office and Ken out.
One last stand. One last stand.
Yeah, I'm good.
What about my speech? One last stand.
You lost me at fucking rhino balls.
So Ken goes to save Karen. Justin gets this huge bag of weed out of Jigget's locker, and he sits to watch the monitors. Karen is shooting at vampires from her cage, but she's running out of ammo. Justin is smoking, and we see Ken on the monitors running. Ken is running from a clown when he stumbles and falls onto the floor as the clown steps on his neck. Then suddenly the clown is staked by Justin with a drumstick. He's decided to come out and help them fight. He helps Ken up. They're chased by a group of vampire clowns. One is actually crawling upside down on the ceiling of the hallway. So we know that gravity doesn't affect at least the older vampires. They make it back to the security office. Justin has an idea. So he lights up the entire gallon Ziploc bag of weed and sticks it into the air vent. So it sends this huge cloud of weed smoke out into the entire building. And then we see the vampires start to breathe it in. So we know the vampires breathe. Two girl vampires start to make out. The others sort of slow down and chill out. Ken and Justin prepare to run into the warehouse in an armored metal laundry cart. So they took the laundry cart from the human bowling scene and they've armored it up, and Ken is ready to like push them down. When Luca shows up, he's managed to survive. He gets there just in time to head in. So now Luca, Ken, and Justin are all together. They rescue Karen, who kisses Ken, and then she's like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of caught up in the moment and weed makes me really horny. Then Penny arrives and attacks Karen, but they do finally stake and kill Penny. The group is surrounded by vampire clowns and has to fight, and there's this great song playing as they fight. And as I was watching the scene, I was like, how did I not know about this movie? I mean, how did I not know this existed? It's so funny and it's so well done. And I was just like, this is crazy. Anywho, we also learned that fireworks will work. So, I'm sorry, not fireworks. That fire will work with these clowns, these vampires. So far what we know for sure is wooden stakes to the heart and fire. Karen is grabbed. Ken wants to shoot, but we know he's like a terrible shot, so he's scared. He does actually, though, finally get a shot. Aimed in the right area and shoots the clown in the throat. So the clown drops Karen and then Karen stakes him. Then Blimpo shows up, dragging a body behind him. Blimpo is clearly the master because he is throwing people around. He's growling. He ends up getting the upper hand on Justin, only to be staked by Jiggets, who has survived.
Muzzle tough, motherfucker.
Blimpo disappears. Jiggets dances to show them he's still human. He explains that the meatball sub burps kept him safe. Back at the security office, he's upset when he finds out that they burned all of his good weed, and they decide they have to come up with a plan. So they're all like kind of looking to Luca, since he's like this mafia criminal. And we find out that actually in Italy, he was a baker. He's never killed anyone.
Luca, you're an assassin, murderer, or a cannibal. What do we do?
Cazzo stai dicendo? I was a baker. A big store moving next to mine. I closed down. I come here to work.
He has no idea what to do. Ken cuts his arm, and the plan is to cover his body in blood and then fight, but he passes out.
This is our job. This is who we are. We're Night Watch. No!
So when he comes to, they all do the same thing. They cut their arms, their forearms. They start to cover themselves with blood. And the plan is to like lure the vampires all out into the sun. This is the plan.
Go, get to the window! cage. The sun rises in 7 minutes, and then we have to pull the shutters and get to the cage.
So they have 7 minutes until sunrise, and they're going to lure the vampires into the warehouse, then pull the curtains off to expose them to the sun. And this happens. So the blood lures all the vampires from the building. They all follow our heroes into the warehouse, and they're like, now, and they pull the cord and all the curtains come down.
God damn it, your watch is fast!
But the sun isn't up yet. The watch is fast. So the vampires are going to attack. So at this point, Justin takes off his shirt. And we see that he has a huge cross tattoo on his back. And they're like, oh my God, why didn't you tell us this the whole night? And he goes, I'm self-conscious about my body, okay?
You could have fucking said this 10 times over! Oh, well, you know what? Dig is I'm self-conscious!
Self-conscious? You have a man bun! How can you be self-conscious?
So they're using him as a shield, and they're like showing his back. They're going in circles around and around, like just showing off his back to keep the vampires at bay until finally the sun rises. The vampires burn to ash. Quick too, they burn fast. The group celebrates. We see outside that every building in Baltimore is burning. The group exits onto the roof, looking over the damaged city. This is when they finally go, hey Rajiv, what's your real name? And he says Justin. So that's the end of that joke. They decide that they are Night Watch and that their next job is to save the world. And then Justin says, I think I'm gonna like this job.
So, what do we do now?
We're Night Watch. Now, we save the world.
I think I'm gonna like this job.
And that is our credits. So kind of a quick one, you guys, but a good one. It was a really, really good time. I don't know if you can tell from my smile, but it was a really good one. Now, I don't need to talk about tropes because I talked about the tropes that I really liked throughout the movie. You guys know that I like 2 sharp canines, and we did get that with our new vampires, but it looks like the older vampires have the mouth full of fangs, so they must eventually like transform into more animalistic than humanoid. But whatever, it's fine. So we are going to jump right into the ratings. How sexy or alluring are the vampires of the Night Watchmen? So yes, we saw boobs in this movie, but it had nothing to do with sex, nothing to do with vampires. Now, I will say when the big weed smoke was inhaled, there were 2 girl vampires that made out, but I mean, I can give them one. Let's give them a point for that, okay? Let's give the vampires a point for the fact that the weed makes some of them horny and they make out with each other. And we'll give them the honorary vamp point, but that's really it. I'm just gonna give them the 2 out of 10 onks for sexiness and allure. I mean, especially the clown ones. Oh my God. Horrifying. All right, well, that's a good segue to the next one. How scary or evil are the vampires of the Night Watchmen? So they are killed by wooden stake, fire, and sunlight. However, when they pulled the stake out of Randall, he rose again, which is interesting. I think because we saw others get staked and the stake didn't stay inside of them. So that makes me wonder if they just didn't get his heart that time and he was just knocked out. The vampires are repelled by crosses and garlic. The turn is very fast, and it's a one bite is all it takes sort of situation. So if you imagine like 28 days later, but with vampires, like that's how fast these vampires were turning. And by the time they walk out at sunrise, like the whole town, the whole city is destroyed. So this is a quick turn. They are essentially animalistic once they're turned. They do get stronger over time. Like I said, they start with 2 sharp canines. Over time, it appears they become more like Blimpo and have a mouth full of fangs. And they start to get the like, you know, the vampires of Buffy the Vampire Slayer look, where they have the pronounced cheekbones and forehead bones. They look a little like there's a little more protruding facial bones there. We also know that gravity doesn't matter because we see one of them climb, you know, across the ceiling. All in all, these are not the vampires I would want in my town. They are very, very solid. And the fact that they're dressed like clowns is horrifying. So I'm giving them a 9 out of 10 stakes to the heart for scariness and evil. It was originally 8, but the fact that the masters are all dressed like clowns on top of it, I was like, I gotta give them a 9. I gotta give them a 9. All right, my thoughts. I love horror comedy. This one reminded me of Blood-Sucking Bastards with Pedro Pascal, which I did cover. I highly, highly recommend that one. Horror comedy is very, very hard to nail. It really is. You need the right mix of action and comedy without taking away from the horror, and this one did it. This was a great horror comedy. If you liked Slay or I Had a Bloody Good Time at House Harker or Blood-Sucking Bastards, this is a movie for you to watch. The jokes are solid. They don't try too hard. The chemistry between the 5 leads, the 4 security guards and Karen, great chemistry. It was such a fun time. I totally was like rooting for them to make it through. It's one of those movies where you need everyone, even the smallest part, to play 100%. And they did. Every single one of them gave their roles 100%. Things are set up for you in the beginning, and then you get the payoff in the end. The music choice is great, but most importantly, the vampires are solid. The rules are established. The writers stick to it throughout the movie for the most part. They're clearly, they knew what type of vampire they wanted, and to have them start in Romania, I thought was great. They knew what they wanted, and they used it very well. It's very much like the 30 Days of Night vampires, but if they were clowns. So it's horrifying. The ideal could have been horrible, but I think they made it work, and they made it work well. I highly, highly recommend you go watch this movie. I did not cover all of the jokes because I was so focused on the vampire stuff. So even if you watched my review of it, you can still enjoy the movie. I'm so glad I have it on DVD. I ordered it like that day, so now it's part of my DVD collection. I'm definitely gonna watch it again. I thank you so much to whoever recommended this. Please keep the recommendations coming. I've already filled my spaces for June, and then July is going to be Castlevania, but then in August we're going to go back to recommendations. And if you recommend something that I'm intrigued by, I might make it a bonus episode just because I want to watch it. So keep the recommendations coming. Go join my Discord. We've had people join recently. It makes me so freaking excited. Thank you to my Fang Gang in my Discord. I love you guys. I have such a good time talking to you in there. Yeah, guys, I hope you're doing well this summer. Happy Pride. And I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.
And big finish. Thank you.